Today, traveling across the world can begin with one small screen. A blue line appears, a voice tells you when to turn, and a map quietly removes the fear of being lost. But ancient humans had none of that. No GPS, no compass, no road signs, no street names, no paper map folded in the hand. If a group walked into a valley, they had to remember how they entered. If they crossed a river, they had to know where it was shallow. If the weather changed, the same landscape could become a different world. And yet, humans spread almost everywhere. Across grasslands, through forests, along coasts, over mountains, across frozen land bridges, even toward islands that could not always be seen from shore. So the real question is not just how ancient humans traveled. The question is, how did they not disappear? Because traveling without maps did not mean wandering randomly. It meant reading the land with the body, the eyes, and the memory of the group. A river was not just water, it was a line through the landscape. It could lead to fish, animals, plants, drinking water, and sometimes other people. Animal tracks were not just marks in mud, they were messages. They told a hunter what had passed, how recently it moved, and where the next meal might be going. A coastline was not just the edge of land, it was a guide. Walk beside it and one side stayed open while the other side held cliffs, caves, trees, birds, shellfish, and fresh water hidden nearby. Ancient movement was usually not one brave person deciding to cross the planet. It was slower than that. A family followed food a little further than before. A group returned to a safer river season after season. Children learned which hill meant water was close, which trees meant fruit, and which open place became dangerous at night. Over many generations, small movements became great migrations. Nobody had to imagine the whole world. They only had to know the next safe place. That is the part modern people forget. We think of travel as a destination. Ancient humans experienced it as a chain of survival decisions. Where is water? Where did the animals go? Where can children sleep? Where does the sun rise? Which mountain can be seen from far away? Which path should never be taken again? Every answer became a piece of an invisible map, and this map was not carried in a bag. It was carried in feet that remembered the ground, eyes that noticed small signs, and elders who knew which direction had saved people before. So ancient humans were not simply walking through empty wilderness, they were moving through a world filled with clues. A broken branch, a bird flying toward land, smoke in the distance, stars returning to the same place in the sky, footprints pressed into wet soil. To us, these might look like details. To them, they were directions. Ancient humans did not carry maps. They learned to read the world itself. The first map was not a drawing. It was the land itself. Ancient humans learned that the world was not empty. It had lines, signals, patterns, and warnings. The problem was not that there were no directions. The problem was knowing which signs mattered. A river was one of the clearest signs. It moved through the land like a road made of water. Follow a river and it could lead to fish, fresh plants, animal crossings, drinking places, soft mud, and camps that other people might have used before. But a river could also trap you. A calm stream could become dangerous after rain. A shallow crossing could vanish. A group that followed water had to remember where the banks were safe, where the current became strong, and where animals came down to drink. That made every river both a guide and a test. Coastlines worked differently. A coast gave humans a natural edge to follow. One side was land, one side was water. That simple shape made it harder to become completely lost. Along a coast, people could find shellfish, birds, driftwood, seaweed, caves, and fresh water near cliffs or streams. They did not need to know the whole continent. They only needed to follow the next curve of land. This is why coastlines may have helped humans move across huge distances, not because the journey was easy, because the edge of the world gave them a line to hold. Mountains became another kind of map. A mountain could be seen from far away. A cliff could mark a dangerous turn. A gap between hills could become a doorway into a new valley. Ancient humans did not name places the way we do on maps, but they still knew them. A black rock, a twisted tree, a red hill, a bend in the river, a place where the wind always changed. These were not just scenery, they were memory points. Animal tracks also showed the way. Animals knew where water was, they knew where plants grew, they knew which paths avoided cliffs, deep mud, and thick forest. A herd moving in one direction could reveal a seasonal route. A line of hoofprints could show where the ground was easier to cross. Even predators could tell humans something, because predators followed prey, and prey followed food. To modern eyes, these are just tracks. To ancient humans, they were information. Then came the sky. The sun rose and set in patterns. Shadows moved through the day. The moon changed. Certain stars returned to familiar positions again and again. At night, the sky became a giant overhead guide. It did not give street names, it did not draw arrows, but it could help a group understand direction, season, and time. For people near oceans, the clues became even stranger. Birds could mean land was nearby. Floating wood could mean rivers or islands existed ahead. Waves could carry a memory of distant winds. Ocean swells could move in patterns even when the surface looked confusing. Later, expert ocean navigators like Polynesian wayfinders turned these signs into a powerful system. They could read stars, swells, birds, clouds, and wind with a skill that feels almost impossible today. But the deeper idea is older. Humans survived by noticing what the world repeated. A river repeats its path, the sun repeats its direction, animals repeat their seasons, stars repeat their return, and memory turns repetition into a route. Sometimes the land itself changed and opened a door. During colder periods, sea levels fell. Places that are underwater today became walkable land. Beringia, the land bridge between Asia and North America, was one of those great openings. To a modern person, it sounds like crossing into another world, but to ancient groups, it may have happened step by step. A family followed animals. A group moved toward better hunting. Children grew up farther than their grandparents had ever gone. No one needed to say we are entering the Americas. They only needed to keep surviving the next stretch of land. Other journeys were harder to explain. Reaching Australia required water crossings long before modern boats or maps. That means some ancient humans were not just walking. They were watching shorelines, currents, floating material, birds, weather, and the shape of distant land. They were taking risks, but not blind risks, because ancient navigation was not magic. It was attention. The world gave clues everywhere. A river line, a coast edge, a mountain shape, a bird's direction, a track in mud, a smell of smoke far away, a path remembered from the last season. Each clue was small by itself, but together they became something powerful. Nature became the map, and the people who survived were the ones who could read it. But nature only helped if someone remembered what it meant. A river could guide the group once, but memory helped them find it again. A mountain could show direction once, but memory turned it into a landmark. A dangerous crossing could kill one person, but if the warning survived, it could save the next generation. This is where ancient travel became more than walking. It became teaching. A child did not learn the world from a screen. They learned by following adults through real ground, real hunger, real fear, and real weather. They watched where older people stopped. They noticed which plants were touched and which were avoided. They heard which valley had water, which forest had animals, and which open plain became dangerous after sunset. Every journey taught the group something, and every safe return made the invisible map stronger. Some routes were repeated with the seasons. When animals moved, people remembered. When fruit returned, people remembered. When rivers flooded, people remembered. When a place became dangerous, people remembered that too. The map was not one object, it was spread across the whole group. One person knew the river, another remembered the crossing. Someone knew where birds gathered, someone else remembered the cave, the hill, the dry place, or the story of what happened there before. An elder could be more valuable than a strong hunter because an elder carried roots that younger people had never seen. A story could be more than entertainment. It could be a warning. Do not sleep near that water. Do not cross that valley after heavy rain. Follow the birds when the coast disappears. Look for the red stone before turning inland. These were not random details. They were survival instructions hidden inside memory. And this is why ancient humans could move farther than any single person understood. They did not need to know the whole world. They only needed the next remembered place, then the next, then the next. Over generations, those small remembered steps became enormous journeys, out of familiar valleys, along coastlines, across land bridges, toward new rivers, new animals, new islands, and eventually new continents. Modern maps make the world look small. Ancient travel made the world feel alive. Every hill had meaning, every river had a choice, every footprint could matter, every star could return like an old signal in the dark.
So ancient humans did not travel the world because they had better tools than nature. They traveled because they paid attention. They walked, they watched, they remembered, and they taught. Before maps were drawn on paper, skin, or stone, they were carried in human minds, not as perfect lines, not as neat borders, but as rivers, stars, tracks, warnings, stories, and the memory of where life could continue. Ancient humans did not carry maps, they became the map.